Okay, so you want to own a Chick-fil-A. You've seen the line. 2 lanes of cars wrapped around the building at noon. A kid in a red polo walking the lane with a tablet. The whole operation moving like a pit crew. You've also seen the sign on Sunday, dark. And somewhere you've heard the number that makes this the most famous franchise deal in America. $10,000. That is not 10,000 down, it is 10,000 total. The franchise disclosure document says it in plain type. $10,000 is the only initial out-of-pocket investment you will be required to make. A McDonald's wants $1.5 to nearly $3 million, and $750,000 of it in cash you didn't borrow. Chick-fil-A wants less than a used Honda. And for that price, you get a restaurant that rings, on average, more than $9 million a year, more than double a McDonald's, on 6 days a week. So, every year, tens of thousands of people apply. And every year, fewer than 200 are chosen. Here is the part the number leaves out. You will never own it. Not the land, not the building, not the fryers, not the sign. You can't sell it. You can't leave it to your kids. You can't open a second one unless they say so. And the agreement that makes you an owner runs for 1 calendar year, renews if they like you, and can be ended by the company on 30 days' notice. $10,000 does not buy a Chick-fil-A. It buys the best paid job in fast food, and the job comes with a leash. To see what's on the leash, you have to read the agreement. Here's the assumption, and it's the one the headline invites. You think this is the McDonald's deal with a friendlier price. A franchise. You pay to use the brand, you run the store, you keep what's left after the fees, and year by year you build something you own. Equity. A business worth more every time the line gets longer, that one day you sell or hand down. That's the story the $10,000 tells. It's a job. Arguably the best one in the business, but the thing Chick-fil-A sells for $10,000 is a seat, not a stake. The company owns the land or the lease. It owns the building. It owns the equipment and rents it back to you by the month. It takes 15% of every dollar you ring, and then it takes half of whatever profit is left after that. What you get is a paycheck, a generous one, for running the best drive-through machine ever built, on their dirt, under their rules, until either of you decides to stop. So this video is about what $10,000 actually buys. By the end, you'll know how you're chosen, and why almost nobody is. You'll know the ledger from the register down, the 15%, the half, and what an operator actually takes home. You'll know who built the deal this way, what Sunday costs, where the leash is, and why the 2 most famous franchise deals in America are the same deal read from opposite ends. No villains required. Everyone here follows their incentives. The operator, the company, the kid with the tablet. The incentives just stack into a shape where the person doing the work owns nothing and signs up anyway. Start with the line of applicants. You don't buy your way in, you audition. The company says thousands apply every year for relatively few restaurants. The numbers reporters have pried loose over the years are starker. Around 60,000 inquiries a year for 75 to 100 spots, an acceptance rate under 1%, lower than Harvard's. The company opened about 240 franchised restaurants in 2024. The application is a long one. Multiple rounds of interviews, essays, a year or more from first contact to keys, by most accounts. The company wants at least 5 years of work experience, a record of leading teams, no bankruptcies, and one thing above everything: you, in the building, full-time. The franchise page says it in its own words. Full-time, hands-on, day-to-day ownership and operation. And divest yourself of all non-passive business opportunities. Own a car wash on the side? Sell it. The disclosure document adds that you must devote your full-time and personal best efforts and keep free from conflicting enterprises. 1 restaurant. The company does not offer multi-unit deals to new applicants. A select few, later, may be allowed up to 3. You don't pick the location either. There's no exclusive territory in the agreement. The company builds where it builds and offers you what it offers. Then the training. 5 weeks, in person. And here's a detail worth pausing on because it tells you what kind of relationship this is. Chick-fil-A pays for the training. At McDonald's, the training is 6 months to a year, unpaid, and you are explicitly not an employee. At Chick-fil-A, the company flies you in and covers it, the way a company onboards a hire. The paperwork insists you are not an employee either. The arithmetic suggests otherwise. Now the money, starting with what you pay and what you get for it. $10,000. $5,000 of it is fully earned and non-refundable, the price of the door. The other $5,000 is held as a working capital deposit and comes back to you, or your estate, when it's over. Want a second restaurant someday? $5,000 more. Then look at the list of things you do not buy. The disclosure document describes the premises as owned by Chick-fil-A, leased to Chick-fil-A, or ground leased with Chick-fil-A owning the building. The company's audited statements say it purchases and develops its restaurants, or leases the real estate, and purchases or leases the equipment and rents it to franchisees. In 2024, the company spent $2.7 billion on property and equipment. That is the buy-in, theirs, not yours. What you pay instead is a set of monthly lines, all from the document. Equipment rent, $5,000 a month for a freestanding restaurant, less for a mall unit. A business services fee, $300 a month. Rent on the building, which can run from under $3,000 a month to the high 90s depending on the site, and which the company's own accounts cap at 6% of your sales. Insurance, hardware and software, a seasoning royalty of about 6 cents a pound on the chicken. And one line that isn't there, the advertising fund. The document allows up to a few percent, and then notes that since June of 1989, the company has charged $0. The most recognizable chicken sandwich in America markets itself out of corporate's own pocket. So far, it looks like a bargain. The bargain is in the next two numbers. Here is the ledger, from the register down. Start with what a Chick-fil-A rings. For 2025, the disclosure document puts the average franchised freestanding restaurant at $9.16 million in sales. The median is 9.09. The best one rang $20 million. A McDonald's averages just over 4. Now the tolls. First, 15% of gross receipts every month off the top. The document calls it the base operating service fee. On $9 million, that is $1.38 million before you've paid for a chicken. Then everything else gets paid: food, crew, rent, equipment, insurance, the lights. What's left is called net profit. And the second toll takes half of it. The additional operating service fee, the document says, is 50% of the net profit for the month. You keep the other half, plus a guaranteed base profit of $1,000 a month, plus an advance of up to $1,500 against your share. Your own salary, by the way, is not a deductible expense in that calculation. You are paid out of the half. So what is the half? The company doesn't publish it, but its audited statements do. In 2024, Chick-fil-A booked $1.29 billion from that 50% profit share. The operator's matching half is the same number. Spread it across roughly 2,500 franchised restaurants, and you get about $500,000 per restaurant pre-tax for the operator. 5 or 6 cents of every dollar rung. Reporters' estimates run from $150,000 to north of $600. The arithmetic lands in the middle. $500,000 a year for $10,000 down, with no loan to service. The catch is everything you don't own. Slow down on the structure, because the structure is the company. Read the operator's ledger from the other side. Of every dollar a Chick-fil-A rings, the company takes 15 cents as a fee, then roughly 6 cents as rent and equipment, then half of the profit, about 5 or 6 cents more. Call it a quarter of every dollar, flowing upstairs, where all the equity lives: the land, the building, the brand. The restaurant can be sold, but only by the company, to the next operator for $10,000. The company's own books, which the disclosure document has to include, show what that adds up to. Chick-fil-A, Incorporated, took in $9.1 billion in 2024, $3.2 billion in base fees, $1.3 billion in profit share, $1.6 billion in rent, $2.4 billion selling product to its own restaurants. Net earnings, $1.04 billion. In 2025, revenue passed $10 billion. It is a private company, owned by one family, with no stock to buy. And it does this on 6 days. The restaurants have been closed on Sundays since Truett Cathy's first diner in 1946. Opening on a Sunday is listed in the franchise agreement as a default the company does not have to let you fix. Analysts once put the foregone Sunday sales at over $1 billion a year, when the chain was a third its current size. On today's $24 billion, a seventh of the week is closer to 3.5. The chain is still the third largest restaurant company in America and has the highest sales per restaurant of any chain in the top 50. The lesson of the 6 days isn't piety. It's that demand this strong gives the owner of the brand all the leverage there is. You don't need to give your operators equity when 60,000 people a year will take the job without it. The deal has a birthday. Truett Cathy opened the Dwarf Grill in Hapeville, Georgia, in 1946, a 24-hour diner near the Ford plant, and closed it on Sundays from the first week so he and his staff could rest. He spent the early 60s perfecting a pressure-cooked chicken breast on a buttered bun, and in 1967 opened the first restaurant to carry its name in the Greenbrier Shopping Mall in Atlanta. From the start, the people running the restaurants were called operators, not franchisees, and the terms were the ones you've just heard. A small fee, the company keeps the store, the operator keeps half the profit. It was, in the 70s, a way for a cash-poor founder to expand without selling equity to anyone. By the time it was a way for a cash-rich company to keep the equity to itself, the model was the company. It still is. 3 things about that history still run the business. First, the company is private and family-owned. Truett's son Dan ran it until 2021 and remains chairman. Truett's grandson Andrew is the chief executive. Nobody outside the family gets a share, operators included. Second, the operator is treated as talent to be selected, not capital to be attracted. Forbes reported as far back as 2007 that operator turnover ran about 5% a year and that the founder would end an operator's agreement for conduct he found sinful, a word the company would not use today and a power it has kept. Third, the 0% ad fund, on the books since 1989. The company markets the brand itself because the brand is the asset and the asset is not shared. Which brings us to the question every operator eventually asks. If I don't own it, how do I leave? You don't leave with anything. That's the design. The disclosure documents transfer section is one of the shortest you'll ever read. No transfer allowed, except into a company you set up for your own convenience. Sell the restaurant to someone? Not possible. The table of transfers to new owners for 2022, 2023, and 2024 reads 000. Pass it to your children? If the operator dies or becomes disabled, the agreement terminates automatically and the $5,000 deposit is refunded to the estate. Retire and cash out? On termination, the operator must immediately vacate and return all equipment to Chick-fil-A. 20 years of building a line around the block, and the line belongs to the building. The agreement itself ends every December 31st and renews a year at a time. Either side can walk on 30 days' notice. The company can also end it immediately for $1,000, or a figure from a formula. In 2024, the company reacquired 102 restaurants from operators. Only one agreement in 3 years is listed as terminated for cause, which tells you how most exits happen. Quietly, by agreement, with the keys handed back. That leash has been tested in court, rarely. In 2010, a Delaware operator named Horace sued under the state's franchise security law over an ending he called unjust. The company paid $180,000 and both sides signed releases. Forbes counted a dozen discrimination suits against the company between 1988 and 2007, including a Houston manager who said he was let go after declining to join a group prayer. Set the merits aside and look at what the cases assume: that the company can end an operator and that the operator's recourse is a settlement, not a sale. Nobody disputed that part. It's the model, working as designed. Now hold it next to the other famous deal. A McDonald's franchisee pays $1.5 to nearly $3 million for a new restaurant, $750,000 of it unborrowed, and borrows the rest from a bank. Then sends McDonald's 4% of sales as a fee, 4 more to advertising, and rent between 8.5% and 15% of sales on a 20-year lease. After everything, a well-run store keeps mid-single digits. What the franchisee owns is a tenancy, the equipment, the crew, and the right to sell the business to an approved buyer. A Chick-fil-A operator pays $10,000, borrows nothing, sends the company 15% of sales plus half the profit, rents the equipment for $5,000 a month, pays rent capped at 6%, and keeps roughly 5 or 6 cents on the dollar. What the operator owns is nothing. The job can end in 30 days and cannot be sold. Same take-home rate. Opposite deals. McDonald's sells you a lease and lets you keep the equity. Chick-fil-A keeps the equity and hands you a salary for running a better machine. And it is a better machine. About 60% of sales now go through the drive-thru. In the industry's 2025 timing study, Chick-fil-A's lane was the slowest from order to pickup, 7 minutes, because it had by far the most cars in it, nearly 3 on average, and the highest satisfaction scores of any chain. The company's answer to its own lines is more machine. A 4-lane drive-thru in Georgia with the kitchen built upstairs and a conveyor dropping food every few seconds. A mobile order-only store in Manhattan. A first British restaurant in Leeds. All of that is the company's money. The operator's was $10,000. Even the prices tell the story. From 2014 to 2024, a chicken sandwich combo went from about $5.85 to $8.55, up 57%, while a McDonald's basket roughly doubled. The operator sets the menu price. The operator does not set the model. So, can you own a Chick-fil-A? No. That's not a trick answer, it's the documents. You can operate one for $10,000 if you are one of the 100 or so people a year they choose. And the job pays, by the company's own numbers, about $500,000 a year to someone who is good at it. You get a line of cars, a crew, a kitchen that other people paid for, and Sundays. That is a genuinely remarkable deal for a job. What you don't get is anything that's still yours when the job ends. The land, the building, the fryers, the sign, the brand, the line itself, all of it stays with a company that took in $10 billion last year, keeps a quarter of every sale, and has never had to sell a share of itself to anyone. 2 famous deals, 1 design. At McDonald's, you buy the lease and keep the equity. At Chick-fil-A, you skip the buy-in and keep nothing but the paycheck. $10,000 buys the keys. It never buys the door.